here except for Whistlepig. I think we know.
Nope.
So
we do know who. Oh, I'm sorry, Roger. We do know who Whistlepig is now. They're another member. They have a phone and an iPad on or something.
Oh, okay. So it is somebody that we know about. All right. So nobody knew. So I'm going to turn over to Jack to hot show the meeting, and I'll have my update later in the session. We might be able to get through quicker now because there won't be anybody from EGLE here. We should be able to skip through those things pretty fast.
But before we turn it over to Jack, let's let Beth take the vote on the minutes.
Okay. Yes. The minutes have been attached to the agenda, so everyone had a chance to look at them. Are there any changes, or do I have a motion to approve the June minutes?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
So now I'll take over. Before we dive into the agenda, I want to note the passing of Dan Hamill. This was wildly unexpected. Dan was only 65 and he passed just a couple of weeks ago. Dan's been with us for as long as I can remember, I guess about 10 years. And he's often been the one to take the brunt of our frustration with the state legislature and our laws and such. And he has really conducted himself patiently and calmly, in spite of the fact that he's the front man for the ineffective state mechanism that we have. So I would like to note his passing with just a moment of silence. And with that, I'm hopeful that the state will give us someone who is as kind and considerate of our circumstances as Dan has been in the past. So let's turn our attention to the agenda now. Is there anyone here from the EP? Oh, I'm sorry, Rita, go ahead.
I would just like to say, I looked at the tribute book for Dan Hamill on the website where his obituary was. I thought it would be nice if someone representing CARD would put just a short statement of our gratitude on there for all the years of working with him.
So are you volunteering?
I can do it. I think I should have maybe a couple of people kind of look at it too. I mean, if I'm doing it on behalf of CARD, I need sort of like your permission to do it on behalf of CARD. Because I'm not a board of directors member. I'm not anybody except the member. But I think it should be done on behalf of CARD. That would be my.
It'd be good if you could draft something and I'll send it in on behalf.
Okay. I'll do that.
If anybody wants to do their own, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, but I think on behalf of CARD
Yes,
would be nice to say that on behalf of CARD, we want to say thank Dan for all the many years of his patience and help, whatever, something nice.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to pull together some images from the videos and from the stills. I was gone. Of course, we had the power outage here, and so even if I was here, I couldn't have worked on anything. So, I'm a little behind on doing what I meant to do for Dan, which is pull together some images and maybe even a little video clip or two. Some of that I can post on the tribute site.
Yeah, I was thinking for CARD, it's just something simple. So it'd be me and Roger will look at it. Does anybody else want to look at it before I send to Roger or not? Is it who?
Yeah, I could help write something up too.
Okay, so Vince and who? Anybody else?
Send it to CARD admin.
Okay, I'll send it to CARD admin
At Google.
Yeah. Okay, unless there's some, and James, you would like to look at it? Okay.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay. I don't think it'll be a big statement. I just think it would be nice if we put something up there. I noticed there weren't a whole lot of comments in his tribute book, and I think it is something that the families look at.
I'm wondering how many of his previous work colleagues in West Virginia even know about it.
I couldn't say, but anyway, that's all. I just wanted to say that.
Good. Thanks for bringing that up.
So both Jeff and I have posted a link to his obituary in the chat feature on Zoom, if you want to click on that. So, all right, now I'm going to move ahead, seeing no further hands. Is there a representative from the EPA here? No. So then, Georgia, do you have anything to convey from the Congresswoman?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I wanted to thank everyone who was able to join us in person for our Gelman PLUME Community Update Forum at the end of June. I don't believe we've met since then, so I just wanted to put that out there for the group. We really got a lot out of having so many people there participating. Really appreciated that, especially because it was great for us to be able to convene quite a few relevant folks from both the federal and state government, as well as quite a few local people. So just wanted to say thank you if you were able to make it out there in person. I know we had some tech issues with the live stream. So if you watched on the live stream, I'm sorry that it got caught a little bit in the middle there. But people were very nice and responding to each other in the comments, which I also thought was great, sharing knowledge there. So we just wanted to put that out there. I will say most of the comments we got after the forum were just in regards to developments, proposed developments happening in and around where the plume is, mostly the focus of planning commissions for local municipalities. So not altogether directly connected with the plume, but potentially impacting them. So I just wanted to let everyone know that that was quite a bit of what we heard afterwards, was just people concerned about contamination related to upcoming proposed developments in Scioto, Ann Arbor Township, getting a little bit closer to Dexter, that kind of thing. So wanted to put that out there for everyone, and just say that although we don't have an active decision-making role per se, like EGLE and EPA do functionally, we still like to be aware of your opinions in reading, especially the consent judgments, but also just information that gets released that impacts the area where the plume is. We really appreciate having that, even if we're not an active body participating in that. So I just wanted to say that please keep sending them to me. I always make the Congresswoman aware, and especially the comments that are raised here, I take diligent notes and send them to her so that she doesn't have to actually miss out on the information when she can't make it to a meeting. So just wanted to put that out there, and always, of course, willing to hear any suggestions that you've got for future forums. Can't say when the next one will be because we just don't know, but yep, just wanted to put all of that out there after we had that forum. So thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Vince.
Oh, thanks, Georgia, for coming today and giving us a cover of what was happening there. And I think that it was an outstanding meeting. We had great attendance. It's available on video online. So if people want to watch it or for the first time or refresh their memory or whatever, that's an opportunity. And I think there was a lot of great questions and a lot of great comments, and they spent as much time as they could answering the questions, and really do appreciate all the people who attended. Thanks.
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, likewise, I want to say that was one of the better forum meetings that we've ever had. And it seemed very productive. And I really appreciate the way that Debbie Dingell and her staff pulled everything together and got important people there. I was able to meet the AEG for the first time and talk to her afterward and gave her some advice what needs to get done. The video that I produced from, I think there were I don't know if I used any of the clips from the live stream, but we had a couple cameras going, and I think that's what's linked right here. In the agenda. So feel free to do that. All right. Thanks.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yes, I want to reiterate and thank the Congresswoman for holding the hearing, and it was very helpful. I think that the communications from CARD was very important because it was done in a very forceful yet professional manner, and it was heard. So I think we can use that as an example for how to conduct ourselves in the future. Thanks.
Very good. Anyone else? Well, I hope you'll convey our gratitude to the Congresswoman. It's good to have everybody in the same room at the same time so that the information that's presented is presented in front of everyone. In the past, we've run into a problem where somebody will be saying, well, if you bring the EPA in, then EGLE can't do anything and all of that. And the Congresswoman just has a way about bringing the right people together to make sure that there's no misinformation, and all of the interested parties hear each other take their own positions. So I found it quite useful and appreciate it. I think that what came out of the forum essentially was that what is ineffective about the state process is because our state laws are weak. And I think that drives home the message that it's really necessary for the EPA to come in and take over, because the state can't do anything more than, well, they could do a little better than this consent judgment, but not a lot better than this consent judgment. I see you nodding your head, Mike. But so again and again, the reasoning we got from state officials was that they're constrained in how much they can accomplish. And I think that drives home the message that we need the EPA in. Anything further on the EPA before we move on to EGLE? All right. Do you want me to go through these individual things, or just refer people to the attachments, that email? Roger.
Well, I'm going to be covering the EGLE homeowner well sampling.
Yeah. Okay.
So what we just got, a few of us got from Jenny Kahn, 3:45 today. We haven't had a chance to fully analyze, but I do have a little bit of analysis done on it in the last couple hours. And I don't know what the new draft monitoring plans is. If anybody has anything on that, they can speak up.
Jenny is here and has her hand raised, so the county is on that, under the EGLE heading.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hey, I'm happy to give an update on the homeowner well sampling.
Feel free.
Okay, so we went out and sampled the first week of June. And for those who don't know, I'm Jenny with the Washington County Health Department, and the health department is contracted by EGLE as part of their long-term monitoring program for contamination sites to collect residential well samples near sites of contamination, with the focus being to make sure that those wells are testing below criteria for contaminants. So for the Gelman site, we were able to collect 202 samples in this last round. So I do want to really thank our EGLE partners, the EGLE lab, for a fast turnaround time, and all the volunteers we had. It took 18 staff members to go out and collect the samples, and that was just physically collecting them, not all the prep work that went into before and after for that sampling event. Out of our 202 samples, we had 30 detections ranging from 0.5 parts per billion, which was the detection limit at the lab, to 2.3 parts per billion, with the highest levels being on Elizabeth Road, Those levels were consistent with previous detections, so no surprises found there. We're working on a map. I really wanted to send out a map with the data so that people could understand and see where those detections are. It's just not quite ready yet, but hopefully here within the next few days, we'll have that out and available for everybody. And we are starting to look at next year's sampling for the fiscal year 24. So we have a meeting at the end of the month with EGLE to discuss what to do. So if you have any recommendations or suggestions, please send them my way, because those will be taken into account when we sit down and speak with them and try to figure out the plan for next year. I did want to mention, of the detections that we had, there were 7 previous detections in the Scioto Township sampling when they sampled with method 522, where we showed no detections, being that we had the higher reporting limit with our sampling event. Any questions?
So there were some wells that had not tested positive before that tested positive this time?
Yes, but they've never been sampled before.
Oh.
So yes, of the new detect, yes. So we didn't have any that SIO sampled and got a non-detect, that we got a detection, nothing like that. The new detections were just not sampled at all before previously.
And
I
so
think
they,
she's saying there were some that SIO found using the 522 method that were not found using EGLE's internal lab. They can only detect down to 0.5 parts per billion. So
Correct.
7 out of, what did you say, 30, right?
Well, we had 30 detections, but SIO, when they did their sampling, they had 7 additional detections of the ones that we both sampled.
So presumably it'd be 7 out of 37 were missed, basically.
Were not detected in this sampling event.
okay.
Or
And
no,
so-
7 out of the 20, how many did SIO find? SIO found 24 or something like that?
Yeah, we'll have to match it up, right? Because they sampled more sporadically, like randomly, right? Whereas we did like full block, or tried to do full blocks. We weren't able to sample everyone, whether homes were vacant, water wasn't accessible, or they declined sampling.
But you intended to sample all the ones where they had detections before.
Correct. Yep.
So how many of those could not be sampled?
At least one. I'll have to double check, but at least one.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And we had like 5 homeowners, approximately 4 or 5, reach out that we were unable to get samples from. We're gonna go out and sample them next, or later this month. It's August 1st. So near the end of this month, we'll go out and sample. We'll do one more sweep and try to get everybody who we missed initially.
Oh, how many would that be other than the ones that were sampled before?
So these are at least one. Like I said, there's one in particular that SIO had a detection on that we weren't able to get a sample for. They did reach out, so we're gonna go out and sample them in August.
Yeah.
But the others would be just ones that, again, their water was turned off, or they had a dog out and they weren't home, or something where.
Yeah. How
we weren't
many
able
in
to
that
sample.
second set that weren't sampled before that you're going to resample in August or this month?
Well, they're not resampling. We're just going out to get the initial sample because we weren't able to get a
Initial
sample in
sample. I
June.
mean, how many did you have to go back out for?
We've had 4 or 5 contact us
4 or
that
5.
they,
Okay, so
yeah.
5 or 6 altogether. Okay.
yeah, not too many.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kathy.
Jenny, thank you for the information. I have a question about the detection. So a SIO resident has commented, one of the board members on the township board, that they see 17 new addresses comparing your address list to the prior SIO well testing.
Okay.
Would 17 new detections be consistent with what you found? Is that what you were thinking too?
I honestly haven't put them side by side yet. So,
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the county, county detections, previously we had 6, now we have 30. So as far as the county goes, there's 24 new ones, but I haven't sat down to see which ones of those SIO previously sampled, if that makes sense.
Okay,
I haven't calculated that number yet for myself.
okay. So when we work out that number, I guess at some point, I think that Will and I are going to want to talk in more detail with you.
Okay, yep, we're always here to talk, yep. And hopefully we'll have that map out soon too, so we can see where, those detections fell relative to what SIO has done too,
Okay.
which they closely aligned. And for the ones where we had, SIO sampled with 522 and then county sampled, they're close to with the results. Most of them were within like 0.1 parts per billion.
Were any of your sample sites closer to the Huron River than the SIO Township sample sites? Do you know?
All right around that same area.
What you're seeing on the screen here are the addresses I got from EGLE, I think, when they were planning on doing this 2023 sampling. This is not the full set of ones that were sampled. And of course, they're not identified as which ones have hits yet, because I just got the data at 3:30 this afternoon. So that's in process. But one of the hits that was closest before was about 1,000 feet from the river, right about here. I think on this one right here, in fact.
Okay. So potentially some of these new detections might be closer to the river,
Right.
but we don't know right
And
now.
if it's within 1,000 feet, I think the 3.5 parts per billion applies, not the 280 that EGLE's been using over these years, last couple of years anyway.
Can I ask about like the 7 SIO non-detects that previously were positive? Do those homeowners get a letter saying they're non-detect when there
Yeah.
was low detections the time before? And
Yes, and their letter explained that. So their letter addressed not only their current non-detect and why with the reporting limits, and it also told them
Good.
what their previous detection was from SIO.
so they don't think they're clear and free. They know they might have real low levels below 0.5. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, yep, good question, yeah. We trying to explain that. It can be tricky, but we're trying, yeah.
Kathy, you still have your hand up.
No, sorry,
Yep.
lowered it.
Sorry, I spoke too soon.
Anybody has more questions, please reach out. And then again, we will be sending out a map. So, and then posting that on our webpage too, so that residents can see where the new detections are, because we don't have a PLUME boundary estimate that shows what's going on, because we don't know yet.
Yeah, I'll just interject at this point that Jenny and Kristen reached out to me to talk about asking about what the legend should be on their map. And I'm proposing that it be something like this legend that you see on the screen here. And maybe have a non-detect level, so that it doesn't have to be that complicated, because everybody's going to be moving to 522 at some
We
point.
don't have 522 for everybody now, and we do
No,
want
but
people
if
to
you
know
could-
what they are relative. If people want to know, like, with more detail.
Right. But
So-
you can instead of using different colors for that, as I pointed out in my email to you, you can use a asterisk or a different symbol or a different size of icon, weight on the icon, so that they don't get confused by all these different color coding schemes that they've seen over with other previously published results. We should try to move towards some consistent format. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, we appreciate your feedback. We're trying to take all the feedback and put it together to make a map that is most easily understood for a complex amount of data. So
Yeah,
appreciate
but
that.
not, you know, just 2 or 3 colors is all you really need.
And so you mentioned a meeting later this month, I think, about identifying where you want to test this upcoming year. Will
Yes,
you be
for next year.
will you be including any elected representatives from the townships?
No, not currently, but we would really appreciate feedback. At this point, we don't even know how many, it's just a preliminary meeting. We don't know even how many samples EGLE will approve. So it's kind of like our first start. Usually we say like, hey, this is what we have. This is what we're looking to do. And then we kind of go from there. I mean, we'd like feedback, but at this point, it's pretty preliminary.
Okay, thank you. I see no further hands, so I'm going to move on. I want to note that Yusuf is here with us as the designated representative of the county board. Kathy Knoll is the designated representative of Scioto Township. Mike Moran is here on behalf of his township. Of all the elected bodies that should be concerned about this, only Ann Arbor has not appointed an elected official to be the liaison with CARD, and that's kind of disappointing. On the other hand, they have hired Patty McCall to help us understand what the city is doing. And the next item on the agenda is Patty's update.
Hi, everyone. So I am going to provide an update on the 1,4-dioxane Sentinel wells that were installed. So the last sampling we did was in May. We will be out hopefully this month. We're trying to get something on the schedule for middle of August. No detections have been, we've found no detections in those wells. We are working to transition that sampling to the city. The water treatment folks are capable. So we've been working on a process to get that worked out. And I think after August, they're going to be taking it. So I also want to let you know that we did do some in-well slug tests, and slug tests are meant to provide some understanding of aquifer properties. So that was just done on Friday. We'll get some information chugged through the modeling and figure out what are, things like hydraulic conductivity, which is the most important thing.
Can
we'll get that worked out.
Explain what that more slowly, what you're talking about.
I guess the best way to explain it is just how quickly water moves through an area. It's really related to what type of material is in the aquifer. So if you have gravel, for instance, you're going to have a higher hydraulic conductivity than if you had silt or like a beach sand. So we'll get those numbers together. That helps us understand gradient a little bit too. So it sort of all plays into each other, how quickly things move. And it'll help us understand some of the other aquifer properties. So we're working on that.
And those were existing wells?
These are the Sentinel wells that were installed at the end of last year. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's it. Are there any questions for me?
Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah.
Does this mean then that you won't be joining us anymore? And will someone from the city give us updates or?
No, I'll still be attending.
Oh, good.
And my apologies for not being as regular. I am traveling a lot. So I will try to at least take quarterly, if not more.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We do appreciate your updates. Thank you. Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, with the untimely death of Dan Hamill, I think we're going to be having trouble keeping track of some of these things that are going on, like the Allens Creek testing, potential groundwater testing to see if homeowners could be exposed through their groundwater, seeping into their basements and evaporating and exposing the homeowners. These are all complicated issues, and I don't know that the CARD group has the resources to follow up on these issues and pressure whoever to get the data. I do find that, in my opinion, the city of Ann Arbor has not been as aggressive as they should be. We've seemed like we're dragging them, kicking and screaming every step of the way. And I think if we had more professionals involved, we would have more standing and more opportunity to get things determined and start a plan to remediate it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vince. Anyone else? Moving along, Rita, do you want to give us an update on the Yale Superfund research program?
Sure. Yeah, Roger's got a couple of slides. So I thought I would just, some of you may remember, it's been a couple of months back now that I went to their first annual meeting for the center. And I thought I would start by just reviewing, because there were some email exchanges where there's a little bit of confusion about what is the Yale Center. So I wanted to clarify that this is a center that's funded actually by the NIH, the National Institutes of Health. And specifically, it's funded by the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. NIH has 27 institutes, which a lot of people don't know. And one of those is the Environmental Health Sciences. And so it's really housed in NIH. It's not housed in the EPA. It is not a regular part of any regulatory agency, and it has no regulatory function. It is called the Superfund Research Program because that is the funding program within the NIEHS, the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, that supports this. The National Institutes of Health has some programs that allow investigator-initiated research, where the investigator decides, I want to do research on this, and they write a grant application and ask for money. But a lot of the money is partitioned off for a particular reason. And so this Superfund research program was actually funded with money that was given to the NIEHS from the Superfund program by Congress. And so they kept the name, the Superfund Research Program, even though it's through NIH. So I just want to make it clear that this is an NIH program. It is not affiliated with the US EPA Superfund program. It is not administered or overseen in any way by the US EPA. And from their website, the NIEHS Superfund Research Program is described to fund university-based grants on basic biological, environmental, and engineering processes. So I just want people to kind of have the correct expectations about what this center is and what it can do and can't do for us. So maybe the next slide, Roger. So in the Yale Center, as in all centers that are funded through this NIH program, there has to be at least 2 biomedical research projects, and there have to be at least 2 environmental science and engineering research projects. And so these are the projects that are in the Yale Center. Under the biomedical research projects, there is a mechanistic toxicology project, and they're doing research on liver cancer using various lab model systems. So they're working, for example, with mice, and specifically with genetically engineered mice. And they are also working with human liver cells. And they're also working with zebrafish, which is an interesting model, but we won't get into that too much. But they're trying to look at how 1,4-dioxane may be causing cancer. We really know very little. There's very little research on this that's published. And this project has published already more papers on how 1,4-dioxane may be causing cancer than any other group in the world. So this is really a great advancement. This is wonderful. We don't know all the answers. We don't know half the answers, but we're getting closer. The second biomedical research project is an epidemiology project where they're looking at exposure assessment in the human population in Long Island. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because that's directly of interest, I think, to us. The initial center application, by the way, they were going to look at Long Island population as well as in the Cape Fear River Basin they were going to look at. But the Cape Fear River Basin stuff had to be cut out because they got their budget cut. All the centers in NIEHS had their budgets cut by 50. This program, the centers were cut by 50%. So that's a huge budget cut. So they just said, okay, we're not doing North Carolina, but they're really interested in us. And I'll show you why in a minute. Just quickly, the environmental science and engineering research projects. One is to look at contaminant detection centers. They're working on these new sensors. And I'm not a biomedical engineer, so I'm not great on that in giving details. And the other one is looking at advanced oxidation treatments for better breaking down 1,4-dioxane. And then, like all of these are all mandated by the program. There also are cores that support it. So the cores provide services for administering the center and data management and analysis, community engagement. All centers in NIH have to have community engagement now as part of their center activities and research training. So next slide, Roger. And so I wanted to put this up because this was really interesting to me. So they're studying this Long Island population in Nassau and Suffolk counties. So this is on Long Island in New York. And you can, the concentration, the highest exposure is 2.44 parts per billion. So it's significantly lower than what is allowed even in Michigan. And historically, of course, the population in our area was exposed to much, much higher concentrations. And it's because of that they are very keen and interested, at least they're talking, that they want to write new application grants to get some money to study human population health effects in our area. But they can't do it without money. You know, there's no magic in this world. And so some discussion that happened over the email and said, well, it sounds like the center just wants looking for money. Well, you know, it just doesn't, you can't do these things on intent and wishful thinking. But the fact that they remain interested in us, I think, is very encouraging. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm happy to answer questions.
Hey, Roger.
So one of the first things I noticed is that they have a 0.06 parts per billion range here, as if they can detect that low. It must be something in the laboratory, because I don't, you know, usually you can't, we thought 0.12 that SIO used with their 522 method was the best method, but we need to investigate why they got a 0.06.
I'll ask them.
Yeah.
I could ask the director of that project. Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, the lower we can go, the earlier we can detect dioxane before it becomes a problem.
So I know that they are working on a more sensitive detection method, and they have one that is in the development stage. It's not like commercialized yet.
Right.
But I don't, to me, those numbers look like government numbers, you know? They don't look like their data. This center is not even 1 year old.
Right. I understand what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed here is that I think Port Washington is like in here, right?
I don't know New York well enough.
Isn't that's where Paul Corporation's headquarters were? Not that there's any relationship.
Yeah.
The other thing is that as we have situations like this where I think these are municipal water systems here, but if you get into areas where they have well water, then it's going to be really important. And even on municipal systems, that some people aren't going to want to wait, and they're going to want to be able to remove the dioxane from their faucet before they drink it. And in those cases, we're going to have home detection systems that can detect very low levels, so we can see how good those filtering systems, the destruction system, home destruction systems work. And those are going to be coming in the next dozen years, I'm sure. The other thing, we can mention this to the Superfund Research Center is that, and I'll be covering it a little bit in my update. In Seminole County, Florida, they have an outbreak of dioxane that was hidden from the public for like 10 years. That could be another study site. That's all I have.
Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, so the other thing that I think is critical is that I think some of us, including myself, have commented to Vasilou that and his group that this site is an exposure of 1,4-dioxane that is not heavily contaminated with other chemicals like other sites. Typically, 1,4-dioxane is a very small part of the pollution issue. It's usually a stabilizer. In this case, it was used in its pure form at very high amounts. So I think they're very much interested in health effects. And I think they're coming around to the notion that this site could give them some really important data that would be hard to capture somewhere else. And was a community is interested in having studies done. So I think it's great that we have this group involved. And we should try and work with them the best we can and get as much information as we can. Because I'm afraid we've had some very high exposures in the area and over many years. So bad for us, but at least maybe they can get some data out of it and help avoid more exposures, but also explain why 1,4-dioxane is so dangerous. So thanks.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, Rita, what is the drinking water standard in New York for dioxane?
Oh, I knew that, but I don't know it. I couldn't swear to it. I think it's
1.
yeah, I think you're yeah.
That's what
I know
heard.
they just changed it. I
Yeah,
think
it was 1 person.
recently. Yeah.
They didn't have a standard before. Now they have a.
Okay.
They also made the news recently because they lowered the allowable amount of 1,4-dioxane in cleaning products and personal care products. And that was not so much because of concern for absorption and exposure from skin contact, as it was concerned about down the drain, non-point source contamination of the water. That's what drove it.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this item? I'm going to move to the next item, which is the intervener update. It's my understanding that the county has filed a claim to maintain their status as an intervener. The city has filed a claim to try to enforce their, I think, 2006 settlement. And I believe that the township did not file anything. So do you have anything to say, Kathy?
Yes, I can comment on that. So Scioto Township chose to not file a complaint for multiple reasons. Because this 4th CJ had been entered, because it's likely that the EPA is going to get involved, and because of the Court of Appeals ruling and the history in this case. So we've opted to not file a complaint, and the city of Ann Arbor isn't filing a complaint either. I do want to mention that the interveners have not been able to agree with Gelman on an order of dismissal. And Gelman wants the dismissal of the interveners to be with prejudice. The intervener's position is that the court's previous order is sufficient. If things were to change significantly at the Gelman site, we would want to have the option to intervene in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. So there is a hearing this week on Thursday in Judge Connor's courtroom. It's in 9:30 a.m. It's a Zoom hearing. It's open to the public. I can give Jack the information. He can disseminate it if people are interested in watching it. SIO will be filing a concurrence. I think it was filed today, I hope, with the city of Ann Arbor's position in this case.
Okay, thank you. Yusuf, can you give us any information about the case that the county filed?
I lost you there, Jack. What did you ask for? Did you want me to comment on this?
Yeah, it's my understanding that the county filed a claim against Gelman, and I'm wondering if you can provide us any update on that.
Well, I don't know that I have too much of an update for you. I will say that probably in May, April, we had an executive session of the board where we received an update from our council attorney on this, and that was just after the motion had been filed. And it's basically, our strategic position that, we want to proceed with an aggressive legal strategy and not sort of deviate from the strategy that we've been engaged in so far. And so using our public health authority, between the public health department and, the board, we decided to pursue that, motion based on, the legal standing that we have around the public health code as a county. And so we as a board, pretty much we're all on the same page that, pursuing aggressively with a continued motion and legal action was our preferred option. So I guess that's pretty much the update. I don't know if there's any questions. I don't know if I'll be able to answer them. I guess the other thing I'll say is I've had several conversations with Congresswoman Dingell as well as the Attorney General, just trying to better understand the positioning that the Attorney General has used in, pursuing the legal case. Her and I had a lengthy conversation about that. She is of the opinion that, her attorneys she's picked the top-notch attorneys that she can to pursue this case, and feels that they did a good job. And so we had that conversation and, kind of went back and forth, and again, it was just for me trying to better understand that perspective. Because at times from where we were standing, it did not always feel that way. So we were trying to just get on the same page there. So conversations were had, but yeah, as of now, the strategy is to, continue pursuing that motion and continued legal action to the greatest extent that we can.
So I want to note that the the complaint that the county filed was really quite good. And if in fact you get Gelman's response to that, I hope that you'll share that. I mean, I can go down to the court and get it, but it costs $1 per page to get court records from the court. And I'm pretty sure your attorney has a PDF somewhere on his hard drive. So,
well, I can definitely ask him, see what I can get for you. I do agree that they did a wonderful job putting that together, put some great arguments down, and I've been impressed with his work so far. So, and our attorney Michelle as well, our in-house corp counsel.
Good.
As well as our entire public health department. They've done a great job, developing, supporting evidence and helping us to make that argument.
So I'm going to have Beth put your name on this item. So when you attend these meetings, you can participate in these updates, just to put you on notice. I didn't mean to catch you off guard today.
I will be noted. No, I'm glad I could provide a more lengthy report than I initially thought that I could provide, but there you go. I didn't know how much of that you guys already knew, since some of it was a little bit older information, but I guess since I haven't really had the opportunity to update you guys since that meeting, I guess some of it might be new. So thanks.
And thank you. Go ahead, Vince.
Yes, thanks for coming, Joseph. I just have a question. Do the government officials that you interact with, are they pulling back, thinking that EPA is going to come in and take over the site, or are they still working to try and do the best they can until that happens? And hopefully it will happen, but there's no sure thing. But any sense of that in the state or local government?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Vince. And I think there is a hint of that for sure. In terms of, people kind of, passing the buck off and saying like, well, okay, EPA is gonna, take over and do what they need to do. I have continued to try to impart that this is and has always been a dual pronged strategy that we need to pursue from both angles, and we can't just have it be an EPA only strategy. And so that's my position and something that I've been trying to promote. And I don't know that it's necessarily the prevailing feeling that we should just give up and let EPA, do their thing, but I have heard different flavors of that depending on who I interact with.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Seeing no further hands, let's move on to the next update from Mike Moran. Mike?
Well, our next testing situation has been rather frustrating. We've been suffering some of the regular summer doldrums with township officials on vacation and that sort of thing, as well as various residents who want to participate in getting their consents back to us with the same slowness. But we have hired Tetra Tech to do the work for us. We're very pleased with that. And just on another aside, we do expect that to be moving forward now. We have most of the consents, if not all the consents we need right now. But we're also being distracted by some significant drawdowns in the aquifers around the gravel pit on Earhart Road. We have a number of residents that have had their wells fail, and then even replacement wells, replacement screens fail as well. And that is a serious problem we've been spending a lot of effort on, not to mention some other legal issues in the township. But as things wind down here, we'll get this testing done and provide the information. Thank you.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention one other thing, let me know when a good opportunity for that is to follow up on my earlier comments. I don't want to take away from Mike's comments.
I'm done.
I see no other hands up, so go ahead, Yusuf.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I just want to remind everybody too, since I'm the liaison from the Board of Commissioners, we have opportunities at our board meetings to update the rest of the other 8 members on the happenings of the different boards and commissions that we serve on. So if there are things that you want me to relay as asks or updates to the board, please let me know. It's a good opportunity to bring everybody on the same page on different issues. So don't forget that that's out there, and I'm happy to, bring whatever the group wants me to the table.
We will do that. Nobody here is shy.
Mike,
That I know for sure.
Go ahead, Roger.
Mike, where is the gravel pit?
It's on Earhart Road, just north of Warren, around Warren Road.
Okay, I'm not that familiar with where that is. Is it up here?
Yeah, it looks like you're on a gravel pit to me.
Is that the one we're talking about?
I believe I didn't watch you run the cursor there, but it looks very familiar.
North Dixboro, Nixon, and then
Yeah, so yeah, that would be
this
it.
is Earhart here.
Yep.
So some of these homes around here, they're wells.
6.
Interesting. Okay. Just wanted to update that for myself. Thanks.
Yusuf, you still, oh, you don't. Seeing no other hands, we're going to move on. But before I do, I've put a link in the chat to the county's first amended complaint, if anybody
Okay.
wants to read that. Kathy, do you have anything to report on the Knights of Columbus development?
I have one thing to report. They have requested to be on the township board agenda for a vote, and they will be on our agenda in August, probably the second meeting in August. The rumor is that they are going to add to their proposal to make the community benefits that they're offering for the residents more acceptable to everyone. I don't know. So this is just a rumor, and it is possible if their new proposal changes substantially from what the Planning Commission reviewed previously, that the new proposal will have to go back to the Planning Commission. But nobody knows where that stands at this time. And I don't know what's happening, but tentatively they're going to be on the board agenda for the second meeting in August.
All righty. Any questions or comments? Okay, I'll go back. Oh, go ahead.
Jack and to Kathy, what is the date of the second meeting in August? Just real quickly.
I'll have to, I'll check and let you know, okay? I don't have my calendar in front of me right now.
Okay.
So I'll have to check and let you know.
All righty, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, you want to update us on the water focus group?
I can a little bit. At our most recent meeting, the focus of the discussion was on emergency preparedness in the county. We had several presentations, and there was significant discussion about potential contamination of the Huron River, potential contamination if there might be a derailment of freight car carrying toxic chemicals. And we were told that at this time, Washtenaw County does not receive notice of potential toxic chemicals that are on railroad cars that pass through the county. So every train, it's to be treated as if there were toxic chemicals on it. And if there is a derailment, there are certain procedures that the county will automatically follow as a result of that, because there's no way to know. And I thought that was very interesting.
So within the county, what is the department that responds to that kind of emergency?
Yeah, and I don't have their name here, but there's a county emergency planning
Okay, yeah.
group. And the city of Ann Arbor also has their own very small emergency planning group. The person who presented on behalf of the county's last name was Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy, who I believe he's with one of our local fire departments.
Well, there's a Kennedy with the Ann Arbor department.
Okay, could be him then.
We've got some questions here. Go ahead, Kathy.
Question for Kathy Knoll. During the discussion, was the Great Lakes Water Authority mentioned at all?
No.
Oh, okay, good to know. Thanks.
Go ahead, Roger.
So during the discussion, did anybody mention how many derailments have happened over time in like nearby or anything?
You mean throughout Washtenaw County?
Yeah, or nearby, yeah.
No.
Because there was one recently at Ford Lake. So it'd be about probably Ipsy Township or something like that, someplace to the east. It's the last one I knew about. And of course, you know, with after East Palestine
Yes.
thing, everybody's really worried about it now,
Yes.
which, you know, maybe we should be, because, you know, Ann Arbor gets 85% of its water from Barton Pond, and if something got in there, it might not just be easy to get it out.
Yes.
And there was a water main break in was it Macomb County?
Yes.
Mount Clemens today, and that caused some consternation, even though they got it fixed real quick. So you know, water is kind of an important thing.
It is. So this group is the City of Ann Arbor Source Water Master Plan Project. And this is a technical advisory committee to that project. There are about 25 people on this committee.
Okay.
I see a train derailment in Van Buren Township, February 2023, near the Huron River. It's just a quick search.
Yep. Okay.
on that.
Yusuf has his hand up. Go ahead, Yusuf.
Yeah, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but just some background. Yes, I was going to mention there was a train derailment earlier this year. It got a lot of attention in the legislature and the folks that represent that community in Western Wayne County. There were some bills introduced to try to limit or eliminate the hazardous materials that were being transported and increase transparency and stuff like that. So there is legislation introduced by the majority party that I don't know that it's going to move or not. The Rayle lobby is very opposed to it, of course, but just wanted to flag that was introduced. And then in terms of just because Washtenaw County was mentioned, so when I was chair of the board back in 2013, as chair, you automatically serve on the emergency operations. And so the county has the Emergency Operations Center that operates. It's a group of, maybe like 25, 30 people that represent everything from, fire to EMTs, police. And it's, staffed by the County Office of Emergency Management, which is housed within the Sheriff's Office. And they have a ton of different task forces. There's a Homeland Security Task Force, EMS Commission, there's a Hazardous Material Response Team, and there's a board associated with that. And then there's the Local Emergency Response Planning Committee. So there's a number of different groups there within that, and they coordinate with all the different municipalities. As Kathy said, City of Ann Arbor has their own. And so like, I remember we had like a pretty big ice storm and snowstorm when I was the chair. And so like that is the body that can declare a state of emergency to receive state aid. But we can only do it for the county. The city has to do it for themselves because the city's a big enough community that they have their own. And so there's somewhat different authorities there, but overall for the whole rest of the county, the Emergency Operations Center operates, and they do drills and they test, the system to respond to hazardous material spills and stuff like that within the county. So that is in place. However, as Kathy said, my understanding is similar to yours, that the county isn't notified like on the days that hazardous material is traversing the county, and that we just have to assume that every day there are hazardous materials traversing the county. And when a spill occurs, there's that team that's around to prepare for it, I guess. And frankly, the same applies to the many natural gas and oil pipelines that traverse the county. I think there's 4 total, maybe 5 that we have in Washtenaw County. So the Emergency Operations Center is aware and prepared for all of that, and they have equipment that is used to respond. Is the equipment sufficient? Is there enough funding? These are all questions that are good questions to ask, but there is some structure in place around that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Roger.
Quick question, Joseph. When you were on that committee, is there a representative from the GIS department so that if there's a problem, put up a quick map of where it is and let people know what the, the evacuation area would be and stuff like that? Is that a normal, there'd be somebody in that department that would automatically be on that committee, do you know?
I don't know that we have a GIS department at the county. I know that there are several mapping systems that the sheriff's department uses. And so, yes, there's a big screen, several big screens that they put up, different maps. I don't know, like I said, we don't have a GIS department specifically, but there are GIS trained individuals that are embedded within various departments that are at that table. I don't know if there's specifically a person who is just GIS as a specialty at the table. But and so I can go back and double check that. So I'm not
just curious, because that, when it comes time to get the word out to people, we need good structured data in a form that's consistent and doesn't have to be, re-manipulated in order to share it. That's what I've been having problems with, even today, even this afternoon. So
yeah, I definitely hear you on that, and I think Kristen is commenting in the chat too. So yes, there are numerous mapping systems that we have, but your point is well taken, and definitely thank you for sharing that. That's really important.
Thanks.
All right. Seeing no further hands, I'm going to move on to the next item. Rita, did you want to discuss the bylaw revisions?
Has anything happened? If I was
think
supposed
at
to,
this point, we can send the vote out. There were going to be 24 eligible voters, and those are the ones that will get an email. So, I mean, because we wanted to give everyone this last month to make any changes, and nobody did.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
If somebody has sent me something and that's wrong, that I didn't see it, send it again, please.
Okay, and then this week we'll work on sending the most recent final draft
Great.
in an email to the 24. Well, we can send it to everybody too, but only the 24 will be able to. I'll send it to the card core group, but then individually you'll get one if you're one of the 24 eligible voters, or it'll change after this meeting today. It's 3 of the last 5 meetings plus our designated representatives. And anyway, that sounds good.
Remind me, do the bylaws require that we take that vote at a meeting?
No, it requires that everyone has 7 days to review it. So that's why it's easier to send it out in email. If we hadn't gotten to them, we could have taken it tonight. If a week ago, I let everybody know that we'd be. But this way too, they don't have to be at the meeting. They just have to have attended 3 of the last 5, and they need 7 days to review it, or 7 days to be able to cast their vote to me, something like that.
Okay,
So it's just been easier to do it by email for that reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we should probably send it out like soon after this meeting and give maybe 14 days, because somebody might be gone for a week on vacation or something. Not be.
That's good.
So. And
then the next meeting though will be September, and that's when maybe we should take nominees for board positions if anyone wants to be on the board. This is
because we're going to expand the board, right?
Yeah, and then October is when it states in the bylaw. October is when we have our annual meeting and annual vote. If we wanted to ever change the board, or there were new nominees. We haven't done it every year because we kind of, no one has shown interest in, but this would be the time to maybe if someone wanted to be secretary, and I would
definitely need to help get a secretary where you could still be backup, but we need. Yeah.
And I'll be back up as long as needed. If there is nobody though, I will continue on too. I'm trying to minimize some of what I'm doing. I can't go to local things. I can't keep up on state issues because I'm not in the state. So, but I don't mind being the scribe. We could, I mean, you know, I could be one of the other members and not, I don't know. It's totally up to you guys. I'll
Right.
go either way, but it'd be nice to find somebody that's local to do it.
I'm looking at a couple people on the screen right now that I'm that a couple of whom I've talked to previously, and some of them are smiling and some of them aren't. So it's time to step forward here. Yes.
Yeah, and then we want 2 other members at large that what I was thinking of it was do some of the, like how Rita Lot Caruso has been doing this bylaws
Yes.
committee. And, you know, you really should be a board member. You were one that I was thinking, you know, people that take on these extra, James Damore did that resolution that we wanted passed because it, you know, we do have issues that we like to address, attend meetings, be representatives of, and so yeah, that's what we were thinking of, I think.
Did we just say add 2 members? Is that what we said?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe we should say add 2 to 4 members.
That's fine. I think the more the better in this case, because to spread the, you know, the duties or responsibilities too. And
Yeah, I mean, given that Dan was 10 years younger than me.
so if anyone has ideas and thoughts about any of this, please email Rita or myself, or Roger or Jack, or I mean, any of the board, Mike, and let us know what you're thinking. Because we can make changes before we send out the vote. This is just, we were kind of trying to troubleshoot, but it'd be nice if someone stepped in that was local instead of, you know, I can't be there for a lot of stuff. So if there's a local secretary that wants to be secretary.
It's good to have a remote person just in case we all get hit by a meteor or something.
Yeah, the remote person down here that's actually drinking dioxane in her municipal water.
That's right. Right.
Go ahead, Rita.
So if I just remembered, I think the way it is that I don't even have control over the final document anymore. Roger, isn't that true that it's in your lap now? I think that's the way it was. So we like changed permissions of who owned the document and where it was. And I'm not great on Google Docs, so.
I think you can highlight a thing and make comments.
Okay.
So if it isn't that way, we'll change it to be that way.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, not that my inbox is getting flooded with suggestions.
Yeah, I just didn't want anybody to be making changes without it, you know, willy-nilly. We have to, you know, we can everybody can make comments, and then actually I should look at it right now.
Yeah, that's.
Let me bring it up right now and see what it says.
Well,
because this is how you would do it. Go up here and we look at the share permissions, share with others. Anyone with the link. Okay. Oh, no, it doesn't allow you to make comments. Oh, wait, it says it does too. Anyone with the link is a commenter. Yeah. So that's the way it is.
Right.
So, yeah, good.
But do we all have the link?
Well, it's right.
You
It's
sent
right
it
here.
to
I just clicked on
and
it.
it's in the agenda.
Oh, it
Yeah.
says, oh, okay. Okay,
I
thank
put it in
you.
the agenda, so.
Okay, all right. Thank you for telling me.
But there's 24, last month there were 24, like there are on the screen. It's most of us, the ones that come to
Yeah.
all the meetings that can vote. So whatever you guys think, we're the ones that are changing it right now and coming up with a new, you know, board that will sustain through EPA meetings and, you know, that kind of stuff too, that you've got ahead the future, maybe in-person meetings again.
Who knows?
Okay.
All righty. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to the chair now for our his update.
All right. Let's see if I can find my folder here. Share update. This is it. Yep. So we talked a little bit about EGLE's homeowner well sampling for June. I finally got the data at 3:40 p.m. today. And I started initially comparing it with SIO's homeowner well testing from 2021 to 22, where there were 128 samples and 29 detections. EGLE found 30 detections out of 202 samples. And here's SIO's sampling. The white dots are non-detect, and the yellow bullets are where there's detection greater than 0.12 parts per billion. I intend to do a combination of these. Here's what the locations that I initially got from EGLE, that these were probably going to be the locations they would be testing. So I haven't updated this with where the actual hits are, but that's be the next step, is to integrate these two to show which of the prior hits were hit again and which ones were missed because EGLEs can only detect down to 0.5 parts per billion. I'll probably get some questions on this, and then I'll bring up my Google Earth mashup here and be able to show you where the overlays are to some extent. But I also have a spreadsheet that I started working on this afternoon, comparing back and forth between the EGLE's values and SIO's values, and finding, where there are matches. One of the big problems I have is that both sets of data do not use standard street address conventions. And SIO really should know better. Well, actually, EGLE should too. You don't put periods in addresses. you don't put RD period in your address because it doesn't match up with the database. The stored data doesn't store periods. It's just extra characters. You don't need it. And so to standardize addresses, use what the post office uses. The post office has standard street names and standard ways to designate all addresses because they have to deliver to all of those addresses. And we did that, for 40 years for our local government clients, including SIO Township was one of them. And I think they still use the same practice in SIO itself, but somehow those names don't get transferred to the consultant or to EGLE for them to use. So I had to do all these red ones here are ones where the names weren't standard, and these are just for the 30 hits that they had. So that's my gripe on that, is that it slows everything down for analysis if they don't use standard addresses. Let me go back to my presentation. I have to change something on this one over here to show it bigger when it's recorded. Now, this is a discussion I've been having with Dan Bicknell. Gelman should fund homeowner well sampling going forward. This should not be a burden on the taxpayer. Should be paid for by Gelman and established through individual homeowner can have their well tested if they're within 1,000 feet of a previous hit. Can be administered by EGLE, should use method 522. Washtenaw County Health Department can be the one to collect the samples and send it to an independent analytical lab for 522 analysis. But and residents can request if they're within anywhere, but if they're within 1,000 feet, they should automatically be able to get their well sampled on a periodic basis, and not just once a year. If something's going on in their well, just like wells everywhere else on the site, if levels are going up, you shouldn't have to wait a year to get the next reading. And this should all be permitted because of the exigent circumstances that is in the settlement agreement with Gelman Sciences from July of 2014. And the link here will take you to that document. You can read about it. And I'd like all the lawyers involved to read over this. I know Jack was looking for the federal consent judgment that was mentioned in one of the documents. You know, one document links to another document, so it's hard to get all this stuff together. But when you have homeowners drinking dioxane at levels that could affect their home values, then Gelman should be doing the funding for that. We shouldn't have to rely on asking the legislature and local governments to fund that. It's their dioxane in our waters of the state. And if for some reason Michigan's law is too weak to make that happen, then we need to change it. We need to have the polluter pay for their damage. Because if you're about to sell your home here and you're looking for buyers and they happen to come from states where their drinking water standard is 0.35 or 0.3 or even 1, they may be reluctant to buy a house here, even if it's under 7.2, you know, in between 1 and 7.2. Just we're not protecting the health and welfare and of the local residents over the long term. We've got to have better sampling earlier so we can ameliorate the problem before it becomes out of hand. And it's already more than a mile away from the where everybody thought the edge of the plume was. I mean, this portion up here, this is, if we look at the path line from let's say this here to where the edge of the plume was, it's over a mile from where the edge of the plume was supposed to be. And two and a half miles from the Gelman property. So we can't, if anybody tries to tell you that this plume is a mile wide and 4 miles long, no. There's another plume here and maybe another plume here. Overall, it's probably 3 miles wide and 4 miles or 4.5 miles long. And this got here without anybody detecting it for 20 years, 30 years. You know, we didn't have the level of detection that we have now, but even some of EGLE's recent sampling is 1 part per billion, more than 1 part per billion. It should have been detectable, even using the old method. Now that we have the 522 method, we can detect the dioxane sooner, and we should be doing that. Any questions on that point before I go on to the next item? So I've been following this, what's going on in Seminole County, Florida. It's the Orlando area. Right before I went on vacation at the end of the beginning of July, I got a call from a reporter at Orlando Sentinel, and we talked for a couple hours. And what it is that there's some dioxane contamination that was discovered there from a company not that much different than the way we discovered it here back in the 80s. But the local authorities didn't share a lot of that data with the public. And we're starting to see some of that here, where there's secret data that we know was taken in 2016 and 17. We still don't have access to it because it was part of the confidentiality agreement between the lawyers, yada, yada, yada. And even just getting this EGLE data from June took a long time, a lot longer. It should have been within a week after sending out the letters. We should have gotten that list of data. And then I could have provided a much better update at this meeting. Now it's going to have to wait until the September meeting to actually look at the comparisons between the data. But these are all the news reports that resulted from that revelation at the beginning of, in the beginning of July. The report actually, these all got published just a couple of weeks ago. And here it's in the drinking water of three municipal water systems. We don't want to be in that. We don't want to be at that stage. We don't want it to get that bad here. We have to do a better job. Any questions on that? You'll be able to follow this link here and the various links. When you look at the agenda and click on my chair update, you'll have all these same access that I'm having here. Getting back to the EGLE databases, there's the traditional Gelman access database that originally came from Gelman, and then in 2011, 10 and 11, the company converted to a new database, and there were some anomalies with the conversion. And rather than explain the anomalies, Gelman got in a little funk and decided that they'd just cut the state off from their database. And instead of giving them access to their database in real time, they'll just give them monthly updates. So since 2010 or 11, Gelman said, or EGLE has had to update their Gelman database by hand once a month. And then they had to add by hand all of the own sampling. And that's why even today, we don't have an up-to-date database, up-to-date EGLE database. Even the SIO Township results are not in EGLE's database. And of course, this latest set, was just done in June. That's not in there either. And for industry standard, this is not good. I mean, there's a Michigan company that I've been talking with that can update data basically as soon as the analysis is done. It's updated in the database, and report maps are driven in it. And why we can't get our environmental people to use the best available technology, especially since it's homegrown, is beyond me. It's cheaper, it's faster, and it's more reliable. You don't have transcription errors that you have to weed out because it's all done electronically and in the field. So anyway, that's one database. Now, EGLE chose to use a consultant to to transfer their Gelman database into another database using ArcGIS and RockWorks for the mapping. And these are the components of that database. And that hasn't been updated with data since, I think, 2021. So we're way behind on the data, just so everybody knows. Meanwhile, Gelman has a database that we don't have access to. Any questions before I go on? So I asked Bard, it's Google's AI bot like ChatGPT, if there were standard guidelines for identifying groundwater sampling locations and dealing with the data. There, I hung there for just a minute. So you can read this at your leisure, what it takes. And these are all good suggestions. These two screenfuls here. And one of the first things it mentions, we use the consistent naming convention. I mentioned this earlier for street address. You really have to have consistency for it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to match up the data automatically. And getting back to, this is a repeat from an earlier month. Data is the only way we know where Gelman's dioxane was, where it is, and where it's going, and how fast. You can't see it, you can't smell it.
He's still rambling.
So the fact that we don't have all the data, we don't have clean data, we don't have up-to-date quick response data is bothersome. And that's part of the reason I'm still updating my Google Earth mashups, because there's a lot of handwork that goes into it the way it is right now. I'd rather be able to plug a set of data into a system and just have it pop up everything that takes me several weeks to do, but I haven't got to that point yet. Anyway, that's my extra long update this month. I do have some spreadsheets that I'm starting to compare, which here's EGLE's data and the addresses, and over here are the lookups to SIOS data. So, and vice versa, here's the vice versa one that actually shows. So we could see that, one was 0.71 and 0.7, those are pretty close. 0.79, but that's now up to 0.9. So there's a well that went up. Here's a well that went up. Wells that were resampled. Here's one that's equal. Here's one that went up. Here's one that went up. Here's one that went up. So I haven't tallied all these, but it looks like a lot of them have gone up. So here's one that went up quite a bit. And I'm not sure all the matches are done because some of these addresses might be non-standard. So quite a few of these rereadings showed increase in dioxane on those homeowner wells. And some of them up to, below 1, up to 1. Shouldn't we be sampling it more often than once a year? And my well is at the same screened elevation as a couple of these that have hits. It hasn't hit my well yet, but I'm concerned. And the slow response of the officials on this. This should be a wake-up call. We shouldn't have to wait till we have 10 newspaper articles about this for people to take action. It'd be better they take action and have the newspaper articles about how the officials are taking action. That's the kind of newspaper articles we need to reassure people that we're on top of this. This is not going to be a life-changing problem. We have competent people in all levels of government to take care of this. And we need to show that competence. So
Roger, Vince has a question.
So Roger, thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. Do you have any idea what EPA would do with all this data? Are they going to be much more efficient and thoughtful? Do we have any idea about that? I
don't, but I'm going to push them to be as competent as I expect them to be.
Maybe we should look up and see what they would typically do.
Well, I don't want to do it. It's not a typical site.
Yeah.
And we need due diligence to match the scale of the problem. And we're not getting that at the state level because of several reasons.
Well, EPA uses 0.35 as their marker for health effects, potential health effects. And
well, remember though, the EPA still uses consultants.
Mm-hmm.
And there's consultants are just people. So we want to make sure we have the best consultants, the best people in each consulting group working on this. And we want to be able to have input to it, because the only way we've made progress on this is by having knowledgeable citizens weigh in on issues. That we can help avoid problems by leveraging the resources we have right here in this community. We shouldn't be setting them aside and pushing them out of the way. We need to make sure everybody's properly up to date and educated on this. And that's a huge task to do in itself. But there are resource people out there that can avoid having to hire consultants to every little thing. Citizen government cooperation can result in a much better product than having single consultants working on their own. And as a consultant, I can tell you from experience, that's absolutely true. We always used to engage with the users, engage with their clients, and from all levels, from the top level all the way down to the lowest level person, because everybody's got input, and we need to be able to tap all those resources. I'm getting low system resources messages on my computer, so I'm going to. Is any other questions? I'll answer it, but otherwise, I think we might go back to the agenda. What do you think?
Well, if we're going to end this meeting early, as promised, we're going to have to move along.
Let me get to oh, that's not the right round here. I got to go to this one. There we go.
So I don't know anything about the non-agenda items here. Was there someone who wanted to speak on the U of M and EPA? Seeing no one, I'm going to move on to the new director of EGLE. I don't know, has he been sworn in?
I believe so.
He's a local guy. He's a good progressive sort of politician or political activist, I should say. And I'm hopeful that he'll be effective in his new position. So that'll be great.
Yeah, how can we get him on to a meeting?
I'll try to reach out to him in the next month.
I mean, even if he just comes on for 5 minutes at the beginning, that will go a long way.
Kathy's got her hand up. She knows him. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yes, I believe I have his contact information. I have attended a number of political fundraisers that he has held. If you Google him, you'll see that he has owned a consulting firm that does strategic planning. And so he's very intelligent. He may have a culture shock in joining EGLE, but if anyone can handle it, he can. And it took me a minute to get my hand up. I just want to mention that regarding U of M's position on the EPA, at the community forum, I asked Congresswoman Debbie Dingell about getting a statement from the University of Michigan, excuse me, and she did follow up with a call to the president. I also ran into Paul Brown, the former chair of the Regents, and gave him an update regarding that. And he was not opposed to it. So I think it's probably in the works and people are just very busy. But given U of M's neutral to negative position for decades, I think it's very important that U of M issue a statement in support of the EPA. So Roger, you're shaking your head. Does anyone have any feedback on that? Should I push hard or just?
Yeah, the more we talk to U of M, the better. Oh, I think one of the regents' relatives lives in the neighborhood, our neighborhood here.
Oh, okay. So if they can hear it from multiple people, I think that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, EPA.
So I don't expect that they would issue a statement against the EPA, especially given how far we are in the process. But I think they should stand up and speak at this point. Thanks.
And Vince, I don't know if you remember one of our Earth Day events or something. A grandchild of one of the regents helped us out one time. Remember that?
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
yeah, I remember when the Mayor Taylor came by our table and quickly walked away after I asked him about the water in West Park, and he didn't know anything about it and didn't want to talk about it and just kept walking as fast as he could. So that's, part. But and the other issue was with U of M. U of M actively coached researchers not to get involved in Gelman, largely because Gelman gave the university a pittance of money, and they thought that was something they don't want to see get in the way. And it was just terrible. Martin Filbert, the provost, was involved in that, and so were others. In fact, we have a video of our card group where it was discussed by a former dean who said that he was told point blank, don't let your students work on Gelman.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some pretty bad,
it's time to rectify that.
Yeah.
And what I always tell people is that U of M needs to get involved because of Hill Auditorium.
Yes.
More importantly, health effects. All these people have been exposed and are going to need help, and people potentially to be exposed, especially people with groundwater, drinking water.
No, Vince, you're supposed to ask, what's Hill Auditorium got to do with it?
You've told us before.
Okay. Everybody remembers that? There'll be a quiz.
No, I just remember you told us. I don't remember what you said.
Well, Arthur Hill gave the money for Hill Auditorium. And over the decades, Hill Auditorium fell into disrepair, and U of M renovated to its former glory and rallied everybody to help out. Meanwhile, you know what else Arthur Hill gave to the university around that time in the early 1900s? A lot of land west of town for his demonstration of sustainable forestry, right next to Gelman.
Oh, Saginaw.
Arthur was from Saginaw. That's why it's called Saginaw Forest. And if it wasn't for him, this dioxane might never have been discovered, because that's got the third sister lake on it. And Dan Bicknell, another U of M student, would not have been there to sample and see the dioxane running off from the Gelman site next door. Those are probably all luxury homes in there by now if it wasn't for Hill. So while Hill Auditorium got renovated, Saginaw Forest still has dioxane under it. So Old Man Hill is spinning in his grave more over his favorite plot of land west of town still has dioxane in it.
There's lots of new houses going up right next to that forest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, that's why. So if somebody asks you, what about the university? Tell them that the university needs to get involved because of Hill Auditorium. We need more. We need more alumni like Arthur Hill, who really care and do the right thing. And he was actually a regent, I think, maybe even a president. I'm not sure. Yeah. So next one up.
Go ahead, Vince.
I'm sorry, I'm done. Thanks. Sorry.
You had your hand up.
Yep.
Alrighty. One thing I do want to note is that during the forum, the EPA said that they would release a report during July, a preliminary report on the Gelman plume. And as of this morning, it had not been posted yet. So they may be a little behind. I'm not in a panic about it or anything, but I think that just goes with the whole idea that the EPA is going to be deliberate and time consuming, but we're fortunate to have their attention. Okay, I see no further hands. I think we can adjourn this meeting if you please.
Okay, we'll see everybody next month. And that's the quarterly meeting, so there will be EGLE people here.
Yes.
Great.
People.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Very
Appreciate
well,
it.
everyone.